This is a sample of the information provided as part of the flexible training resources available through HACCP.com. Our training courses are designed to provide training participants with an understanding of food safety and quality system elements and also offer user-friendly assessment activities and competency checklists to complete the training cycle. Product identification and traceability. Key definitions for product identification and traceability. FIFO. FIFO is an acronym for first in, first out. A method of inventory control where the stock of a given product first placed in store is used before more recently produced or acquired goods or materials. Identification. The function of identification is to map a known quantity to an unknown entity so as to make it known. The known quantity is called the identifier or ID and the unknown entity is what needs identification. A basic requirement for identification is that the ID be unique. Product identification and traceability. Product identification and traceability is the method used to ensure that all items including raw materials, packaging, work in progress and finished products are identifiable and traceable to their source. Traceability. Traceability is generally defined as the ability to trace and follow a food, feed, food-producing animal or substance intended to be, or expected to be incorporated into a food or feed, through all stages of production, processing and distribution. Product identification and traceability development. When considering the development, documentation and implementation of product identification and traceability within food safety and quality management systems, the following information should be considered to ensure effective outcomes. About product identification and traceability. Reworking product identification and traceability. Categorized identity preserve status. Microbiological and chemical assessment and testing. Verification of identity preserve status. About product identification and traceability. The primary reason for having a functional traceability system in place is to ensure safe food and to aid in the removal of unsafe food from the marketplace. A logical and systematic form of product identification is integral in such a system. Such a program must allow traceback and traceforward of all finished products, ingredients and other raw materials. This system must be validated and verified to ensure it is effective. All raw materials and finished products must be identifiable and traceable at all stages of the process from receipt to finished products, including process steps where process deviations such as work in progress and reworking occur. A food business should have documented policies and procedures that details how products are identified at all stages of the process including the following aspects. All foods and ingredients should be labeled at the end of production and prior to storage. Items must also be relabeled where they have been removed from their previous container. As a minimum, the product label should include the product name and the best before or use by date. All foods should be covered before labeling, and must not be compromised by the action of covering or labeling. A physical description of how waste, rework, raw materials, work in progress and, where applicable, allergenic materials should be defined. A first-in first-out policy should be applied to all products in storage. Raw ingredients are to be stored in original packaging or in sealed containers to prevent the risk of allergen cross-contact or foreign body cross-contamination. Pre-existing labels should be removed to reduce confusion and to allow sufficient cleaning and sanitizing of the container they were adhered to. If date-type labels of differing colors are used, dates and descriptions should also be used to provide sufficient information about the item. If an item is to be frozen, it should contain sufficient details including the date of freezing and any special instructions. If colored utensils, containers, cleaning equipment or chopping boards are used for specific product types or tasks, this should also be outlined in the policy. A description of how raw materials and finished products are batch and date coded. Frozen items should also be dated when they are removed from frozen storage for defrost. The shelf life of perishable products invariably alters from the manufacturer's original use by or best before date once the original container or pack has been opened. Appropriate labeling will be used to indicate the new use by or best before date. Reworking product identification and traceability. For some products the coding system requirements are legislated. For other products, your business may create its own coding system. In either instance, you should document the definition of a lot for each product, how to interpret the lot number on each raw ingredient, how to interpret the lot number on each finished products, and how ingredient lot numbers are linked to finished product lot numbers. Where pre-mixing or rework is used, document the parts and interpretation of the code used for pre-mixes. The parts and interpretation of the code used for rework. Limiting the use of rework to the same lot reduces traceability problems. If rework is used, a system should be devised to ensure that the ingredients of the rework can be traced to the finished product. Non-conforming product. It is important to ensure that items identified as non-conforming, whether they be raw materials, work in progress or finished products, are specifically covered within the product identification and traceability procedures. It is common for non-conforming product to be segregated from conforming product stock to ensure no mix-ups can occur. Non-conforming products are commonly labeled with brightly colored signage or labels to ensure they are easily identifiable. The control of non-conforming products is often linked to procedures for hold and release of such products. General product labeling. Depending on the type of food your customers are buying and the intended usage of the food, it may or may not require labeling. There is generally no requirement for items produced for consumption within a premise to be labeled with the details of ingredients and usage details. Labeling requirements for specific products or product groups are defined with the applicable food standards legislation. General labeling requirements for products for retail sale include product name, manufacturer address and contact details, manufactured on, use by, best before date. These dates must be objective regarding the type food being packaged, and its intended use. Ingredients, usually in ingoing descending order from most proportionate to least proportionate. Allergy concerns, for example, contains or may contain specified allergen. Specific usage instructions, for example, keep refrigerated and use within 24 hours once opened. Nutritional Information Panel or NIP. The documented content of the labeling NIP must be verified to ensure the information displayed is appropriate. Country of Origin Declaration. Net weight and gross weight. The aim of labeling is to provide consumers with information that will ensure they can make an informed decision regarding their choice of food, and to ensure its safety at the time of consumption, providing it has been handled and used according to the nominated requirements. It is important to ensure that labeling review activities are scheduled, conducted and recorded on an ongoing basis to ensure labels are accurate and meet customer and regulatory requirements. The frequency for labeling review activities are often nominated to meet customer requirements, though annually is a common minimum frequency. Subcontract packaging and labeling. In instances where subcontracted packaging or labeling activities are conducted, it is of utmost importance that the scope and purpose of interactions of such subcontractors are documented and agreed, both internally and by relevant customers. It is generally not considered appropriate for food businesses to procure the services of a subcontracted packaging or labeling supplier without the prior consent of the customer for whom they manufacture foodstuffs. Such customer approvals often include verification of satisfactory standards, including the confirmation of food-grade packaging status. In instances where identity-preserved products are handled by subcontracted packaging or labeling suppliers, it is important to ensure that the integrity and genuine status of such foods are maintained. This is often facilitated through the establishment of assessment and testing routines between food businesses that may enter into subcontracted packaging or labeling arrangements to ensure the status of identity-preserved products is not compromised. Integrity of product labeling and coding. Regardless of whether product labeling and coding is pre-printed or applied as part of the packaging process, all forms of product identification and traceability must remain legible and indelible at all times. Legibility checks are conducted to ensure that the print within the product labeling and coding can be read and understood by the anticipated consumer group. It is also important to consider that regulatory guidelines often specify requirements for defining legibility of product labeling and coding. Indelibility checks are conducted to ensure that the product labeling and coding is permanent and will not be removed through unwanted means. When considering the indelibility characteristics of product labeling and coding, it is important to consider circumstances through which such labeling or coding may become illegible. For example, if the exterior of a frozen product becomes frosted during transport, the excess moisture on the product exterior could potentially cause the product label or coating to become illegible. Environmental conditions, such as high humidity within the packaging and labeling area of a food business, can also potentially impact upon the integrity of the applied labeling. Product assessments should be inclusive of labeling and coding reviews to ensure ongoing compliance. Scheduled product labeling and coding verification activities should also confirm the capability to continuously apply legible and indelible labeling and coding. Where product coding is applied within the food business, verification activities are commonly inclusive of a review of the inks being used, the ink application systems and printers, and the surfaces upon which the ink is applied. Other product coding methods, including laser etching and imprinting, may also be verified through a scheduled activity. The effectiveness of the product identification and traceability systems are often verified through a scheduled mock recall activity as part of the product recall and product withdrawal systems. If your food business supplies foodstuffs manufactured to a customer's specifications, it is important to consider any specific product identification and traceability development requirements in relation to their items. Did you know that HACCP.com includes resources that allow you to create, manage and implement GFSI and HACCP-based food safety and quality programs? Improve your food safety and quality skills and knowledge? Train and develop your team to create better food safety and quality outcomes? Find suppliers and service providers to partner with your business? The information and training resources available through HACCP.com included a variety of formats, such as website content, MP4, MP4 and text, MP3, PDF and slideshow. Are you ready to take the next step in your food compliance journey? Visit HACCP.com today to create your profile and access the full versions of our food safety and quality information packages and much more.